Hi. So today I am going to, this is a Dharma talk, and it's based on the writing that I published just a couple of days ago, entitled IDK Beauty from Ashes question mark. So it kind of talks about my childhood, the way I was raised, the things that my childhood taught me, and kind of what shaped me to be who I am today. And so, um, you know, I think I'm just going to read a part of it, and this is the part that I kind of want to talk about today. So, again, this talks about how I was raised and what I learned from it. So this little part, I guess, stanza says, they showed me anger and violence, but that taught me to value peace, to value nonviolence, to value self-control, and then I could stand up to anything. So my journey with peace and nonviolence kind of goes like this. As a child, as I said, I grew up in a home that was angry and verbally and emotionally abusive, and sometimes violent, and that produced a person who was angry and sometimes violent and opinionated, and it produced a person who was extremely high stress, type A, and just kind of always living like it's just at a breaking point. And so that's what that produced initially. And then at some point in my early 20s, I realized that living that uptight, wrought up, angry way was not the way I wanted to live my life. And so I started a spiritual journey, an emotional journey, a growth journey, and I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about anger. I learned a lot about staying, peaceful. And then my journey sort of took me into religion, organized religion. And in the religion that I was part of, I went in full force, and I learned to turn the other cheek, to remain silent, to trust that God would handle those things for me. And I became so much so in that regard that I became passive. I became a doormat, and I became a person who was consistently used, abused, taken advantage of. If someone crossed my boundaries, I let them. And what that ended up doing was becoming a very unhealthy situation. So I had, as the pendulum swings, gone from one extreme all the way to another extreme. And I guess I finally reached a point where I realized that that was not healthy, and I needed to. And this season, the first season, probably lasted 22 years, the aggressive season, and then the more passive season lasted about that long. And then I finally came to this realization that I needed to seek a balance. I needed to be a person who was centered and who could remain at peace, a person who could love and love humanity, a person who can speak and who can remain silent, who can turn the other cheek, but who also can stand up for themselves. So I had to learn to draw boundaries and stand up for them in a way that also was loving, compassionate, merciful, and forgiving. So I went from one extreme to the other, and now my path is very much intended to be in the middle of those two extremes. I feel that is the healthiest place to be. So, recently I had a situation where someone crossed a boundary with me, and I enforced that boundary, and I stood up for myself. And that person threw back at me, "Oh, you're love and light on your social media, but in reality, you're not." And I just, that made me think, and it made me wonder, like, am I pursuing this path correctly? have I made wrong choices? Like, am I misguiding myself here? And then I realized, no. Loving love and loving peace and loving centeredness and loving calm does not mean that I can't also stand up for myself, stand up for my boundaries, stand up for what I believe is right. So I'm just here to say, if you're a person who loves love and light and peace, that does not also mean that you cannot be a person who draws boundaries and stands up for themselves and others and for what you believe in. So at the end of the day, I believe that neither end of the pendulum is the healthy place to be. The healthy place is to be a person who loves love, who loves nonviolence, who loves peace, who values relationships, but also who loves themselves enough to draw their boundaries, to draw their parameters, and to walk in that truth and in that peace. And that doesn't mean in any way that it's aggression or that it is passivity to either extreme. It means walking in a healthy way where you can both love yourself and love those around you. So the kind of the verse, the quote, the idea comes to mind: love your neighbor as you love yourself. So make sure that you love yourself, that you are compassionate and non-judgmental with yourself. Make sure you know who you are, what's important to you, and what your boundaries are. And then you love your neighbor in that same way, but don't ever stop loving yourself. Don't ever stop protecting yourself and drawing those boundaries when they need to be drawn. And also, love peace and love love and love light. So that's where I am. That's what I've been pondering. You can read the full post on my blog, gypsy@glife.com. And I hope that this is a good, healthy, and inspirational Dharma talk to remind you to check in with yourself, to make sure you're living your truth, you're setting your boundaries, you're being true to yourself while you're also loving others and being at peace in the world. So thank you for joining. I hope this has been a good message, and until next time, namaste.